Hi, so we are here from States of Mind. States of Mind is an organisation based in London of the UK, and we have a project called Breaking the Silence. Breaking the Silence has been going on for 3.5 years now, almost 4 years, and we have worked in collaboration with educational psychologists, UCL, the Institute of London Education, and many more. Our project continues to grow. So our project includes working with students to find out how the education system impacts on young people's mental health. So our part of the project has been a youth-led project for the students, by students. We have done many questionnaires, many focus groups. These are 2 examples of our questionnaire feedback and responses. This is in no way a small scale project. We have over 500 participants in our focus groups and over 450 participants involved in our questionnaires. So just to explain a little bit of our findings, they are very interesting in the sense of it's not surprising to anyone in the education system, students, teachers, head teachers, etc. But it's very surprising to anyone outside of it. So we found 5 main pillars, which we based our project on and our findings are following research on. That being mental health, personal development, identity, life preparation, and assessment, meaning how we are assessed. So just to introduce us as 3 of the leaders of this project, myself, I'm Reegan, I'm 19. I took a gap year and worked. However, now I'm studying psychology in the University of Greenwich. Tumi, who couldn't be here with us today, she's 19. She studies PPL, which is philosophy, psychology and linguistics at Oxford University. And
I'm Christevie. I'm also 19 years old. I study philosophy, politics and economics at the University of Manchester. So just to start off with a brief overview of the experience of the UK education system specifically. So students first enter primary school at the age of 5, and they're there between the ages of 5 and 11, and they start preparing, I guess, by the end of primary school for, I guess, the first major exams that they have to do, which are called SATs, in order to get into secondary school. So around this time, a lot of students begin to abandon maybe their passions as they start focusing on these like major exams, or abandoning their hobbies and interests that are outside of academics, maybe sports or music. And that actually follows through into secondary school while students are preparing for their GCSEs between ages 11 and 16. And there's a lot of pressures put on teachers as well as students to focus on memorization over critical thinking and individual evaluation, simply because the type of assessment, or the majority of assessment that we have here, or specifically during GCSE, a lot of it is based off memory, a lot of taking in information and trying to regurgitate it. So that's how the pressure ends up on both students and teachers to focus on that specific skill over others.
Moving on to higher education or further education, we have either A-levels or BTECs. So A-levels are almost completely exam-based and BTECs are almost completely coursework-based. And you do this from ages 16 to 18. The pressures or the difference with getting to A-levels or further education is that students at the ages of 16 are kind of forced to make kind of monumental life decisions. We choose not only the courses that we're going to be studying in great detail, but we also consider where we'll be going for university or what jobs we'll be going into. And all of this happens with very little support. And then moving on to higher education or employment, there is a really big difference between how we've been taught to learn versus how this environment is, regardless if it's the university environment, if you go into university at 18 or 19 like I did, or you just go straight into work. A lot of students find that they're actually very unprepared for adult life. Even if they go to uni and they move out, they're very unprepared for adult life. Or in the sense of university work is very different from, as Christevie mentioned, the memorizing skills that you learn at GCSE and at A-level. They are very different from the skills that you are actually learning to work with at university. So the points of, the hardest points of the education system isn't a blanket term for everything. It actually spans over every part of the institution, and it affects different ages and different people differently. So one of the first two pillars that we like to talk about is personal development and identity. So as you can see, this is one of our questionnaire questions. And, excuse me, the results are actually over half of our participants said they either disagree or strongly disagree that their individual needs are being met at school. And a third of participants were actually unsure, which clearly shows that a third of students don't even feel comfortable to be able to give their feedback. So with this information, we looked at what personal development is. Why this is so important is because personal development is actually looked at by Ofsted, and it's a separate compartment in which Ofsted evaluate. So Ofsted are actually our regulators, should I say, for educational institutions. So they go to educational institutions, and so secondary schools or primary schools, and they look at the progress of students, they look at our grades and how well the school is. But as I said, there are certain divisions. So some, a lot look at progress, a lot look at grades, and another division is personal development. So why this is so important and why there's such a big focus on this is because Ofsted never give a workable definition. So a lot of schools actually don't understand how and why and what they need to do to improve this. And the fact that there's no workable definition kind of means that if we don't know what they're measuring, does Ofsted really know what they're measuring? So for a lot of schools, they kind of equate this to good grades. The better your grades are, the better your personal development, which is just obviously not the case. So we also looked at what this could be. Personal development could be our preparation for adult life, the ability to master our skills, not only in the classroom, but within ourselves, critical thinking, leadership, teamwork. And it's also could be our ability to feel confident in the life choices that we make, knowing that the education systems that we've been a part of for 18 plus years have given us enough that once we leave the education system, we are able to go forward without having our hands held. So how personal development and identity actually connect is we found that the lack of emphasis on personal development directly harms our identity. So the fact that we do not focus on personal development and developing ourselves means that we sacrifice our hobbies, we sacrifice the things that make us stand out. We give up sports and arts and reading from ages as young as 11 or 13 in order to be a successful student. To a lot of people, it sounds very juvenile. However, the ability to be different has very long-term effects. In the current job market, as probably a lot of you would actually know, what people are looking for is employability, not your A levels or your results or your grades. They're looking at for creativity, critical thinking. They're looking for the chance to stand out. A lot of job interviews say, what makes you different? Why should we hire you? What do you enjoy doing? And students are getting more and more like each other and less like themselves. So the long-term effects of these would be reducing students to grades or statistics. Even some students say they feel like they're being reduced to school funding or a number for school funding. Actually results in students feeling very deterministic, that one grade, that one mark, the university they get into is their be all and end all, their make or their break. And actually what this does is it dismisses any valuable skills that you could have learned along the way, and simply you lose grip of what you like or what you don't like. And again, to a lot of people it feels juvenile. However, because this doesn't stop after education, a lot of people in adult and work life become people pleasers, and they do things because that's all they've done. They've done maths for 15 years, so they continue to do it, or they've done engineering for 3.5 years, so they continue to do it. That's all they know. And there's actually no hobby or real enjoyment to separate yourself from reality, or the reality of, you know, maybe not enjoying your job as much as you would have hoped to. And also the effects of the education system and dismissing identity on minorities. There are many spaces to be able to explore culture, religion, ethnicity, gender, etc. as a major part of our identity within schools. This doesn't have to be two separate things. We don't have to be able to dissociate the institution that we spend over 18 years of our lives in, and probably see the institution more than we see our homes and ourselves. We can easily connect the two and be able to explore our identity, which means that as a long-term effect, we disassociate our identity or ourselves with our workplaces, with, you know, people that may not be your family or your close friends. So that is the link between personal development and identity that we took from our research.
So I'll be talking about the other pillars to do with exams, so the way that we're assessed and how it links to memorization and life preparation. So these are based off the two statements. So the first one is school exams prepare students well for life, and over half of the participants either strongly disagreed or disagreed with that statement. And with the next one, it said exams are a reliable method for assessing my knowledge of a subject. Again, over 50% of the participants either strongly disagreed or disagreed with that statement. So to split off this section into 5 parts, it's exams do not cater to all, exams and how they kill creativity in the education system, how exams don't prepare you for the job market, exams and the curriculum, and ending it on a lighter note, talking about TLevels, which we believe is a new alternative to learning. So exams not catering to all. Obviously, everyone would agree that not everyone is suited to do exams, especially the specific exams that we might have here in the UK, especially when it comes to memorization, that not everyone is suited to be examined that way. And obviously that leaves other students at a disadvantage. And ultimately, we believe that this reflects the education system as a whole. And we also think that's very unreasonable to, in a system where everyone is different, that it's appropriate to examine all students the same way. And so moving on to exams and the death of creativity. So as the curriculum depends so much on memory rather than critical thinking, problem solving, etc., it destroys the opportunity for people within the system to be creative. So students don't really have time to explore what they're learning because there is so much content to get through in such little time. And ultimately, we've met teachers who feel exactly the same, how they talk about how they don't have time to answer students' questions about a topic because, again, there's so much content to get through. So then as a result of that, teachers really don't get to show their passion for a subject that they love. We've met A-level teachers, so that's after GCSEs, post-16 education, who are complaining that students are coming to sixth form/college unable to evaluate and think for themselves, because again, a lot of students are so used to during GCSEs, you're memorizing the argument, you're memorizing the evaluation of the argument, and then the way that you're examined is that you just need to regurgitate it in a certain amount of time. Whereas you might get to the sixth form/college where certain subjects are actually more demanding of you in that sense. They're asking you to come up with the evaluation yourself, and you're not used to that. You're not used to actually critically thinking about something and trying to come up with something with your own ideas. So ultimately, to conclude this part, it's teachers are limited as well as students. So exams and the job market. So when leaving secondary school, as Reegan mentioned before, employers make it really clear that they want more than grades. They're asking you, you know, what makes you different? Because realistically, when we get to, I guess, being in the working world and you're entering the job market, loads of people have passed their GCSEs, loads of people have passed their A-levels or passed their BTECs or done an apprenticeship. So everyone has the right qualifications, or everyone has a certain degree in this, or everyone has a certain degree. So it's what makes you different. Why should an employer hire you? And because students have been defined by their grades, we end up struggling with employability because the system doesn't give you time to find out what makes you different, or anything that did make you different, you had to drop it because you were so focused on your exams, the sport that you might have done, or instrument that you might have played, or just anything that made you stand out that you done outside of academics, you've dropped it. And then now there's nothing maybe for you to put on your CV or for you to talk about in an interview. And then linking on from that before, memorizing textbooks really doesn't prepare you also for the workplace. So a lot of us are basically left kind of hopeless when we enter the job market because we haven't been equipped with the right tools, because a lot of employers are asking for critical thinking, problem solving, teamwork, creativity, independence, and a lot of those skills aren't really being fostered in the education system. So exams in the curriculum. So a byproduct of the examinations we have today are students having to study a very narrow curriculum. And examples of that are teachers teaching the same English book for 10 plus years. Another example is the curriculum being very ethnocentric and representation being very limited across all different social groups, race, gender, class. And we believe that it's up to the education system, it's their responsibility to kind of allow schools to explore different textbooks and different topics. And the examples that I've kind of put here are basically to show or counter the argument that it's not hard to find these resources. There's resources out there that are very diverse and that represent the society that we live in today. So finally, the lighter note, so TLevels, a new alternative to learning. So this was something that was launched in the UK in September 2020, and it's a mixture of classroom learning and on-the-job experience with an industry placement, and it meets the needs of industry as it prepares the students for work or further training or study. It lasts 2 years, similar to being in sixth form/college, and they follow GCSEs. And it covers a really broad and vast range of courses such as accounting, animal care, catering, engineering, finance, legal, media and production. So when we heard about TLevels and we saw this, we knew that it was a step in the right direction, because we know that a lot of our peers would have really been suited to doing TLevels, and it would have basically given a lot of other students, and it's giving a lot of students the chance who know they're not suited to doing A-levels or doing a BTEC or going to an apprenticeship, and giving them maybe the best of both worlds, or giving them something that's suited to them so they can succeed, or so they can be in something that they're more comfortable in and not feel like maybe less than compared to anyone else just because they're more suited to A-levels or BTEC or etc. Muted.
Last pillar, mental health. So again, another one of our results from our questionnaires. The question being if mental health is supported by the education system. Again, over half either strongly disagree or disagree, and a third are not sure. So what we actually did find was, or what a lot of research does find as well, that the association between, there is a really big association between depression and lower grade averages. And there's an even bigger association between co-occurring depression and anxiety. And what is actually really very interesting about this is that it's not a one-way association. It's not bad mental health is associated with lower grades. The association goes both ways. So what a lot of people do find is that it's a downward spiral. Bad mental health does, well, not cause, but can cause lower grade averages. Lower grade averages can cause bad mental health, and it keeps going. For a lot of students, it's really hard to break out of this this downward spiral. And what actually a lot of students have said is that their experience within the education system has actually worsened their mental health. And some have even said it's the reason for the deterioration of their mental health. Some reasons have been because of the high stake examinations, being one exam, one test paper, one day, feeling like that is all that dictates your future success or your worth. As from an outside point of view, you can understand how that would affect someone's mental health. That being, when you see your institution have a one size fits all, this is the perfect standard, when you are outside of that perfect standard, when you are outside of that box, when you know that you are talented in other aspects, but maybe you are great at that topic, but that exam was a bad exam, you can understand how that may cause students or anyone really to feel like their worth is below others or question their worth. Many students say that the anxiety or stress have become all-consuming, and that the focus on exams, with the focus on exams, they can't do anything else, or they don't have time to do anything else. That time that they would be using would be the time to develop coping mechanisms, or healthy coping mechanisms, and be able to deal with stress. As anyone would know, stress is a part of life. You can't go through life if there's no stress. But it's about being able to learn from a young age, or from a fundamental age, how to cope with stress healthily, what is best for you to de-stress, or how do you see the signs in yourself that you are becoming overwhelmed or your stress is becoming all-consuming. This time is completely stripped away and replaced with preparing for exams, so you don't feel like a failure. And what this actually does is it isolates people who are not good at memorizing facts, or maybe, as I said, had a bad day that day of the exam, or that wasn't their best topic in the exam. And it isolates all these people that are as talented and as amazing in their own right, and are smart and can and probably would go very far in life. And it isolates them into thinking that because they are not in that box, or they did not get that A star, or that A or that B, that it causes them to question their worth. And as anyone, you can understand how that would affect someone's mental health, let alone a student at 14, 15, 16 years old.
So what are the key issues? So one of them being the problem of a student's worth being equated to their academic achievement. Obviously, the reason why it's obviously problematic is that a student determining their self-worth, or how they view themselves, or how they see themselves based on what the education system deems them to be successful or to be a failure, just because of the way that the education system chooses to examine them, is obviously extremely problematic when we all know that there is so much more to life than just our academics and just our grades. Another issue being the difficulties that young people go through in terms of actually being able to reach out to someone in the education system, being able to find someone or have an individual be there as they can recognize, to be comfortable around them, to validate the issues that they're going through, especially with terms that are coming around, such as young people being the snowflake generation, where it makes a young person might feel like maybe they're being dramatic or maybe their issues aren't as serious. And obviously that's extremely problematic. Like, a lot of maybe older people feel like that because they went through the same thing in the education system, that it's completely normal for us and young people to do so, when that's actually, it actually emphasizes the issue at hand. It shows how deep rooted the issue is, that it's been here for so long. And the fact, another key issue is obviously the fact that these issues disproportionately affect minority students, disabled students, working class students. And all of these issues means that we need to promote a culture of listening and understanding and empathy, and treating students as individuals rather than numbers and letters in the system, so that it can help with the issues that so many young people are going through, whether it be because of outside the education system or because of what's going inside in the education system, or because of both, that a lot of students obviously go through depression, anxiety, eating disorders, and so much more. So what are some solutions? So psychologists working in schools with students, so an adult being there or a professional being there to help rationalize a student's thoughts or a young person's thoughts, or to help them validate the feelings that they're going through, and to help them develop, as Reegan mentioned, healthy coping mechanisms. Wellbeing sessions, something that we participated in over 10 weeks of spending time with states of mind, and also doing work experience over the summer, and also getting to participate in those sessions. It helped us really analyze ourselves and participate in introspection, and be able to kind of see how our identity relates to how we act today and how we behave today, and the things that we do, or how we feel. And we feel like a lot of other young people would really benefit from that, especially with using an online platform called Selfology that States of Mind have also created, where it can be used by anyone, teachers and students, and basically being able to train teachers to teach the Selfology to students. So to basically help and equip young people, to give them the tools to help them with their mental health issues without relying on mental health services. And also to do things like, also to hopefully get to a stage of policy reform and Ofsted reform, where the people that are in charge actually start taking action and listening to us. So, and to also encourage a change in culture in the education system. And finally, doing things like this, where listening to other student-led projects, listening to young people who are in the heart of it right now, who are experiencing right now, and getting their take and getting their views and opinions, whilst also collaborating so that we can spread awareness on what's going on, so that we can actually make a change. So if anyone does want to get involved with us at States of Mind, our details are here. And thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening.